Our phone does not stop, 9 to 5. It's on all day long. So just don't listen to what I'm saying, because 2 years from now, everything I'm saying is going to be gone. Just watch what I'm doing and then mimic it and push forward.
Designed to encourage, empower, and educate real estate professionals by sharing best practices from business leaders that are proven winners. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and this is Calibrate Real Estate. Broadcasting from the Mile High City. Thank you for tuning in to the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and our esteemed guest today is Raj Qsar from California. Raj, say hello to our podcast audience.
Hello, everyone.
Hello out there on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you for your download. Raj and I got connected by a good buddy and a past guest, Alyssa Hellman. Raj and Alyssa are buddies, but before we get into any of that, the Boutique Real Estate Group is based in California. Raj started that in 2013. As we were prepping for our podcast, I learned a little bit about the company. But Raj, how and why did you start a company called the Boutique Real Estate Group? Excuse me as I choke there. How did you start that group? What have you learned in the first couple of years as a startup? It's now 5 or 6 years, but what did you learn in those first couple of years as a boutique real estate owner and the owner of the Boutique Real Estate Group?
Thanks, Kyle. Well, first of all, thanks again for having me on the show. I really appreciate that. So the Boutique was founded in January 1st, 2013. And I kind of was, I would say, like a rookie to the industry. I had been in 4 or 5 years. I was working for what I would say is like a big box brokerage. And I got busy really, really fast. And I realized really quickly as an agent, you wore a lot of different hats. You had to be the photographer, the social media coordinator, the transaction coordinator, you're booking your own appointments. You're at appointments. You're like all of a sudden now a termite expert, a roofing expert. You're a painter, a carpenter. You're like all this stuff. And it was really like mind boggling. I really didn't understand how like disorganized our industry really was at the time. And so I was licensed in 2006. I was a single agent, but I had a full-time corporate job as well. So I was in the pharmaceutical industry at the time, which I had been for about 10 years. So I learned a lot of my sales, my negotiation, my rapport and my rapport building with clients was really based truly in the pharmaceutical industry and all the sales training I had learned there. So I felt originally like I had a heads up versus a lot of different real estate agents out there, but that's kind of where I learned how to like look at someone, understand what they were saying, take it in, and then respond. Like taking that moment to like listen to what they're saying, hearing it, and then responding back to them. So anyway, about a week after I got licensed, I was out with a bunch of my pharmaceutical clients. And we were doing a happy hour because that's what we did in the pharmaceutical industry. We just wined and dined people. Like we went out, we had an expense account. We just had a great time. And this is 2006. So this is PF, right? BF, before Facebook. BF, right? So there was no Facebook. I couldn't go find who the heck Kyle was. Like I had no idea. So I'm out with all these doctors and we're at a place called Javier's at the Irvine Spectrum, dead center of Orange County. And one of the doctors, his name's Dan, comes up to me and goes, Raj, man, you know everyone. You're like totally out there. You're all over the place. Again, before Facebook. I'm looking to buy a house with my fiance. Do you know any realtors? And I was like, oh crap. I just got licensed last week. I'm like, I'll help you out. I literally said, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I would love to help you out. He's like, let's do it. Okay, Kyle, we looked at 3 houses. We wrote up 1 offer. It got accepted. No appraisal issues, no disclosure issues. Escrow was perfect. The loan was perfect. We closed in 30 days and I got a big fat check. And I was like, this is literally the easiest gig on the planet. Like, why is everyone not a realtor? You know? And so that's kind of how I got started. And I got busy really, really quick after that because he introduced me. So he was a resident physician, introduced me to his boss, and then his boss to his boss, and his boss to his boss. So I got thrown into this market of like $1 to $5 million properties in my first year. Okay. And about 6 months into it, I learned that, man, like buyers are a little bit difficult. Like they could literally look for 6 months, 7 months, a year before they find that perfect house. I need listings to live. Like I literally need listings to live. So as just like a regular guy, especially being on the marketing side in the pharmaceutical industry, I knew what I wanted my real estate stuff to look like. I never printed anything. And again, this is before Facebook, right? So I throw an email out to about 30 or 40 of close friends. I said, hey, I'm looking for a graphic designer. Does anyone have a graphic designer? I want my stuff to look like it came out of like En Vogue, like a cool magazine or like a luxury magazine. I didn't want it to look like all the stuff I was getting in the mail already at home, which is basically the same templated postcard or flyer from the same exact company. And the only thing that was different was the headshot and the contact information. So I wanted my stuff to like exude kind of this price point of $1 to $5 million in the city, in the neighborhood I was living in. So I meet up with this guy at Starbucks. I show him all the stuff that I don't want it to look like. I asked him to design a piece for me. Again, no website on there, just a phone number, no call to action, no click here to retarget, to cookie someone's browser and follow me around the web and drop into a CRM. And then that CRM sends them a drip email, which goes to a squeech page on Facebook. Now I have all their information and now I'm calling and retargeting and doing all that. None of that, right? None. That did not exist at the time. So I get my first call, $2.5 million listing off a postcard I just threw in the mail. So I was like, oh crap. This is where I got to live. So I learned really quickly that I can't be the agent and the designer and the social, or there's no social media at the time, but to be social media guru, to technologist, to the guy who figures out how to build a squeeze page and link to a Facebook ad. Again, no Facebook at the time. Like, how do you do all that? So my first hire was a graphic designer, which was really the exact opposite of how most agents start in the business. Their first hire is usually an admin or an assistant or a buyer's agent. That's usually how it is. So mine, because I wanted to be different, and I'm trying to answer your question that you asked me like 5 minutes ago, the reason I created the boutique is because I wanted it to be different. And I know that most agents can't do everything on their own. They just can't. It's impossible. Like, how do you keep up with this stuff? Like, have you logged into Facebook Ad Manager lately? It's like you need a PhD in Facebook to figure that stuff out. So it's changed a lot over the years, and I just wanted to be different. I wanted my agents to be successful. I wanted to take that weight and that pressure and stress off of their plates and do all that heavy lifting for them.
Gosh, I love that. You remind me of my good buddy, and I know we share this connection, Brad Allen, the Art of Real Estate down in Columbia, South Carolina. I've been to his office, met his team, and it's a similar concept. And I'm not saying you're both the same, but the idea is that we're going to create some expertise within the brokerage so that every agent doesn't have to be the chief everything officer. They don't have to overpromise and underdeliver, which a lot of us type A personalities do. Oh, I can do that. I can do this. I can do that. I can figure it out. I'll figure it out and know 30 minutes more about this subject than you do, and therefore I'm an expert, you know? So I love that you started with that, because I think everybody wants to be different, but kind of struggles to figure that out. And I think it's great that you hired a designer. You hired someone that had a really high-end look, because that's what you were going for. And I love that you just hit it out of the park on your first sale. You got spoiled, by the way, I will tell you that. And I'm sure you figured that out after the fact. But what an awesome start to your career. So 2013 and 2014. So you'd been licensed a number of years at one of these bigger shops, and you start your own brokerage firm. I'm the CEO of Calibrate Real Estate. There's 8 of us, including myself. You told me as we were prepping, and I'll let you get into this more, that you had some amazing growth in the first couple of years of your company. And then what? What happened?
Yeah, so the way the story goes, Kyle, is as I was like looking for this path and going down this road of, and I just saw this divide, like especially being like a younger agent, I saw this divide. I saw all the agents who had been around 30 or 40 years who really had no web presence, no social presence. They literally were in their office picking up a phone because they sold to their friends who are now grandparents, who's now selling to their children, their children's children, and their children's children. So they literally, like when you looked at their listing, the photos were horrible. There was nothing staged. There was no anything online to distinguish like, wow, this is a marketing powerhouse. So early on, I was like, okay, once Facebook hit, that changed everything. I was on Facebook for a week, got a direct message from a friend that I used to skateboard with in elementary school. And like we used to hide in the orange groves and play hide and seek and all that kind of stuff. I got a call that's like, oh my gosh, Raj, I'm moving back to Orange County. I see you're a realtor. Can you help me buy a house? Light bulb clicked. Wow. Like I didn't do anything. I just logged on and I got a message for someone who wanted to buy an $800,000 property. So I'm like, this is great. So at that time, they called them fan pages. Facebook fan pages. So I built a fan page and I got up to about 1,000 followers at the time. And I remember going to a broker's open in my city and pitching, hey everyone, I have a coming soon listing. Again, this is before Zillow dubbed it coming soon. I have a coming soon listing and it's on my Facebook fan page. And I posted about 30 photos there for all of you to go look. And people looked at me like, who the hell is this cocky ass kid? Like, what is he talking about, fan page? He thinks he's fans? He's been in the business 4 years. How can he have fans already? Like, I just got like, people were like, I had no idea what I was talking about. So anyway, people noticed though that our listings sold quicker and they sold for more money. And what happened as we got good at this, our listings had a certain look to them. Everything was very polished. And we have a calling card on our listings. We really do. When someone sees one of our listings, and our primary photo always has a white bowl with green apples. The white bowl represents purity, the green represents wealth. So that's a signature calling card for all of our listings. So as people started noticing stuff, and we were on Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest, and then Instagram kicked in, people would literally see our listings before they hit the MLS, right? And they'd had especially hyper locally, right? And they had a distinct look to them. Anyway, I did my first real estate video in 2008. 2008, again, I felt like I had Facebook down and I knew where I was going with that. We had about maybe 10 or 15,000 followers at that time. And again, more than any other brokerage, more than all the real estate brokerages combined in Orange County, our Facebook fan page. So people were seeing our stuff. We were boosting every post. And so our reach and our engagement was awesome. But in 2008, I called on an expired listing. A big box brokerage had it. It was on the market about 120 days, was not staged, horrible photos, no web presence. You know, the same typical story. We knocked on the door, got let in, chatted with the folks, and basically said, we want to do something different. Here's our social media presence. It was a husband and wife. They were both lawyers. Said, here's our social media presence. And I have this idea. And I have this idea about shooting a real estate video about your home and what it would be like to live on this street in this neighborhood behind these gates. There's 94 homes behind you, and what's it like to live here? And as I was cruising in, I simply asked, what's that pink flamingo doing on that fourth house in from the gate? And they're like, oh, we have a bunco group every month, and the pink flamingo in front of the house is the person hosting. So as you drive by, you would know who'd be hosting bunco that month. Anyway, so we staged the home, we take killer photos. We did a killer, it wasn't Matterport at that time, but it was a technology kind of similar to Matterport. We did that. We had floor plan renderings. We had actually, again, before Matterport, we had someone come in and measure the whole home. So we had 2-dimensional floor plan renderings with dimensions for every single room. So buyers would know if their king size bed would fit in the downstairs guest room, or if a queen, or if the baby grand piano would fit in the living room. Like, we did all the little things, because people react differently to photos, to videos, to drone. Oh, at that time, before drones, we jumped in a helicopter and took aerial photos in a helicopter with no doors. We were freaking out. So anyway, about a week or so goes by, we get and we shot the video, of course. How I found the videographer is also cool too, and I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, we shot the video, and we're in the process of editing it, right? And we don't really know what we're doing. I just know I want every scene to go with like the beat, you know, of the music. Like if we're doing this scene and coming down the stairs, the music's beaten a certain way. So I wanted to go like that. Anyway, we sold the home before the video was even edited. So the video had nothing to do with the sale of the home, which is crazy. And what I wanted to do, like I said earlier, Kyle, is I wanted to tell a story about being on that street in that neighborhood behind the gates. I found a videographer just doing a Google search, and he was a wedding videographer. So he's telling stories and being a little bit creative about guys and gals and the story of how they met, and then, you know, hiding behind a tree and catching the guy going down on one knee and like doing the whole thing. And I called him up and I said, hey, I want to tell a story about the house. He's like, oh, you're getting married. I said, no. I already did that. I want to tell a story about what it's like to live in this city and in this home and where people go to eat and where they hang out, and like a resident's point of view of someone who grew up in the city. So that was the theme of the video. We had 4 people in the video. We had the homeowners, we had a local resident, we had a business owner, and myself. And we told the story of what it's like to be here and what the city of Fullerton is like and blah, blah, blah. So we did all that. Anyway, we sold the house. We're in escrow. Buyer clears all contingencies. So we're like high-fiving each other. And the videographer sends me an email and says, hey, final link of video, please approve. So I get it. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So I forward it. I don't even put it on YouTube yet. I just forward like the link from the videographer to the homeowners. They send it to their entire bunco group in the neighborhood. Do you see where I'm going with this, Kyle? So a week later, another phone call. Raj, we saw what you did at the Cobble's house. Can you come? That was amazing. You're like a movie star in Orange County. Like, this is cool. I love it. Another call, another call, another call. We're on our 16th listing in that neighborhood. We have a listing there today, which just entered contract last week in that neighborhood because of the first video we shot in that neighborhood, which never sold the home that we intended to sell it for. Again, Facebook light bulb, video light bulb. I want to be different. I got a call from Inman News because they saw the video and said, hey, that's really cool. Come speak. And then that was a game changer.
Gosh, that's awesome. There's so much in that. First of all, being an early adopter and also thinking through, okay, this is going to be expensive. I mean, I don't know if you call it chartering a helicopter or whatever the heck you call it, but
yeah. 1 hour.
Yeah, 1 hour of a helicopter before drones really existed and were mainstream. I mean, you're type A. I mean, like you said, when you were talking to me at the beginning here, you're type A guy and you go big. And, but at the same time, I think most people would be like, man, that would probably cost a lot of money. But I would probably imagine that those 16 listings in that neighborhood have been far and above the cost of whatever it was to produce that video. And then further, the fact that it gets you connected with Inman. Let's talk about that because Alyssa introduced me to you. She was a guest a few episodes ago at the beginning of the year. And Alyssa, I know, is a big thought leader in our real estate industry. And she connected me with you. And so what is it like to be connected with people like Alyssa, but then also Inman and what that all means to you? You said that was a game changer. And I'd love to hear from your perspective of what that really means for those that don't know.
Yeah, well, I think knowing people like Alyssa in our industry, that is the true game changer because you're going along doing something you think is so different and you're in a bubble and you're head down and focused and you're going 100 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour world and you're not even looking around. But there are other people who are super influential and who are able to change your path. And Alyssa is one of those people. And a lot of my nearest and dearest friends I have met through Inman. And those are people who have changed my path in this business, where I've learned from. I remember getting on stage at my first, they called it agent reboot through Inman, and meeting people like Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin and Katie Lance and Glenn Sanford, who's now CEO of eXp Realty. Like, those are the people who were on stage with me back in the early days. And those are the people who have really, really done some amazing things, right? Seth Price is another one. So all of us kind of grew up in like the dark ages and like, what the heck is this Facebook thing about? What the heck is a website? And how do we make a website? And how do we do this? And how do we get people, how do we attract people to our brand? How do you be a brand ambassador? How do you get people to like die and love and like shout your brand out to the world? Like, these are all the people who knew how to do it early on. They're all still close friends of mine. And that presenting on that stage in Orange County led me to the main stage in San Francisco, where I was on a panel. It was called New Kids on the Block. And there was 4 of us who were doing really cool things. Matt Beal, who's owner of Hawaii Life, Lisa Archer, who's CEO of Live Love Real Estate, and then myself, and then Sherry Chris, who's CEO of Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, moderated us. I mean, that was like, oh my, I remember being in the back in the green room, literally feeling my heart, like hitting my monitor. Like, I thought I was literally going to pass out in front of like 3,500 people, telling people this like initial story. And so all of that kind of led to where we are now. I mean, it wasn't all like, you know, roses and champagne at all. It was the early years, man. The early years were really difficult and really like a time where I could now look back and reflect. In 13 and 14, we went from 5 agents to 50. And we were not ready for that. I was not ready for that at all. We didn't have really the infrastructure, the tech, the talent. We didn't have any of that really ready. We just had what I would call is like hustle and passion. I mean, you know what Gary Vee says about hustle, even though he's getting some horrible backlash right now from the real estate world. But Gary Vee says hustle. He's like, when you have no money, you hustle. right? You have no money, you hustle. So that was early on, man. I left a corporate job of 12 years where I had like a base and commission and profit sharing and pension and all this stuff going to basically you wake up every morning unemployed as a real estate agent. You know, you're as good as your next closing. You're as good as your next agent. You're as good as your next deal, right? And so I had to hustle, but we went from 5 to 50 agents like in a few months because people were attracted to what we were doing, but none of us really knew how to scale that. We didn't know how to capitalize on that. So from that time, I mean, I literally have 2 people left from that original 50, right? So we've completely restructured. We redid our entire back end. We know exactly what we're doing now in regards to social, tech, design, marketing, branding, scaling what we're doing. We're completely ready to go now from like 40-ish. We're ready for that next bump to 80 to 100 agents. Like I couldn't be more pumped up about the future.
Gosh, that's awesome because you're right. When you start, and I say boutique brokerage firms, you are named the boutique real estate group. So it's perfect because it just ties right into what I do. And literally thousands of people are doing across the US. You're learning as you go. And while you have a pretty large platform, you've been on some amazing stages, you're also taking some bumps, you're getting some bruises, you're getting a scar here and there. And so Raj, what do you think happened so that your first 50 agents, only 2 remained? Like, what was it that, because I can see that and I know why, and you had several conversations with different people that you alluded to as we were getting prepped, but what do you think, why do you think that occurred? And then what also have you learned from it where you feel like, man, we're ready for this next phase of growth to 80 or to 100? But let's talk about that a little bit on some of the lessons you learned, because that's got to be really humbling, I can imagine.
Yeah, it really is humbling, especially because you're getting recognized across the planet. You're on every main stage. You're invited to everything. You're preaching this. People are coming up to you after the conference going, oh my God, if I lived in Orange County, I would so work with you. How can you open up in Texas, Florida, New York? I heard it all, right? So what I think happened is there was so much happening in that early kind of beginning of Facebook, beginning of tech, beginning of website, like all that kind of stuff. So much was happening. And people were throwing everything at you. And I felt like I could handle it all. I said, I want to try everything. I'm going to build the craziest website ever. And then obviously back then you can go broke doing that. You know what I mean? It's so crazy expensive to do that. They're like, I'm going to tackle a CRM. So we got it. I didn't even know what CRM standard for, but everyone's talking about CRM. So we're going to get a CRM. I buy it for everyone at the brokerage. It's so crazy expensive, right? And then I look at adoption rates and no one's even using it. You know? So there was a lot of that struggle. And then accounting and bookkeeping, like I was managing a lot of that on my own until I hired a bookkeeper. And then now there's stuff where you can just do it online. It's so easy. The bookkeeper approves it, make sure the numbers are right, direct deposit into the agent's bank account. So all this stuff totally changed where I was literally printing checks for agents in the office to now it's like they get an email and a text that you've been paid, you know? So all that stuff is really like streamlined. But we weren't doing it. I didn't work at a big, huge box brokerage. I don't have a degree in real estate. I didn't do any of that stuff, you know? I've never been coached, except by my friends, right? Never been coached, never been at a big box brokerage, never been to a family reunion, never done any of that stuff, right? And so I literally have my friends. I've got people like Chris Smith, Jimmy, Seth, all these people, Alyssa, that I could reach out to at any time and say, I have an issue. This is what I'm struggling with. How do I fix it? Right? I have a very marketing, social kind of brain, but like on the business side, I do need help. And so that's where I have people who have strengths there helping me. And then I've got great friends like Vanessa Bergmark at Red Oak Realty in Oakland, who's, you know, we've cried on each other's shoulders a dozen times about like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going through. I'm like, no problem. I got you. And then she's like, this is what I'm going through. I got no problem. I got you. So I've got friends who've kind of helped me and guided me to be where I am today.
Oh man, I love that because there's so much in your answer. The first thing that I listened to, it just cut me deep, is you're standing on a stage, you're presenting to a group of people who are like, I mean, these are the touchdown stories, right? And then all of a sudden in the back of your mind, you're like, but things are not nearly as glitz and glam as they would appear on stage when I get back at the office. Or people are saying, you're sitting down with someone who's saying, I don't like this or I don't like that, and I'm leaving. And you're presenting to this big group of people. And that's such a funny thing with being in a startup, is that people recognize you outside of your element, outside of the four walls of your business, because they see different things and they're not there on the day-to-day. And so that's really tough. Then the other part of it too is that there is a very necessary place for chiefs to communicate with chiefs. And I think when you're in a boutique environment, whether it's a real estate brokerage firm or some other startup, it's really important to be masterminding. And I'm not watering down that term, but to really be talking to someone who is at a similar level to you, and then someone who's 4 or 5 steps ahead of you, because they can help you. They can communicate with you. They can say, look, I've been there, I've done that. It may be slightly different than what you're experiencing, but here's what you should expect. Here's how you look around the corner. And that's really tough. I mean, to be able to be communicating to people at large in such a way where you're like, man, I got things figured out. And then you go back to your office and you're like, I don't have things so figured out, or things changed all of a sudden. And so that's interesting. You commented about Instagram several times throughout our interview. You mentioned that you love video, you love Instagram. What are you doing on Instagram that's fun for you? What are you doing that you feel like is on the edge, is new? And who do you like to follow on Instagram too? Who's a good follow?
Oh, that's a great question. So I am a bit of an Instagram junkie. I really love it. And kind of the struggle for me right now is I have 4 Instagram accounts. So 4. So you said what's for fun. So
4?
just 4. Kyle, 4. That's only 4. But one's the brokerage. Okay. So I don't manage that. We have a social media manager who manages that. So I don't totally count that one, but it's under, I have 4. And then I have my personal one, which is really fun. And then I have one called Seriously OC. So that's my team page. So my personal team page, where we actually hire a photographer to follow us around and kind of do like the paparazzi. So they're all very well-produced photos with captions. The hashtags are on point, like all that kind of stuff. So we have that. And then I have one, you said, what do I do for fun? So I love wine. I love red wine, California wine. Okay. Specifically cabs. Okay, so that's my thing. Okay, so I have a Instagram account that's doesn't say my name on it. That's called Counterclockwise Swirl. That's all about wine, and you'll know where I am. I usually post the next day from where I am, but you'll know where I am and what I'm drinking if you follow that account. And I think we just clipped 2,000 followers. I started up a few months ago. It's just it's wine and where I am, literally. So awesome. If I'm at if I'm at Inman, or I just got back from Park City, you'll know what I'm drinking. And I'll usually tag location based, like the restaurant I'm at, the winery I'm at, or the event I'm at, all in there. And it's been kind of fun because I've got now wineries wanting to be featured on my Instagram and sending me wine so I could post it on my Instagram. So you don't ever get that with real estate. It's not like, oh my God, beautiful house, that backyard's amazing, come sell my house. I mean, that's so rare, right? So that's kind of my fun. That's my creative juices, just kind of my outlet.
Well, no wonder you relate so well to Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, the wine library is how he got his start and how he started VaynerMedia. He was helping his dad's wine shop in New York. And what a cool thing. And that's the thing I like about Instagram. I do have to admit I have 3 Instagram accounts. So as much as I made fun, I'm one behind you. I've got my personal, which is more real estate and podcast. I've got my dog's Instagram account, which at one point had more followers than me. But that was like my gateway into Instagram. I was a late adopter to Instagram. I didn't know what to do with it. And I was like, I just want to kind of test, but I don't want people to know it's me except for our friends. And it's been really a lot of fun. And then we've got our company's page, which our podcast producer, Kayla Davis, is our business manager. And she really has curated a lot of that content. She keeps us all organized. And Instagram is just so much fun. It's what I was doing. I was using Facebook like Instagram, and I had someone say that to me. And then I started using Twitter like Instagram, and they're like, you should just be on Instagram because that's really what you're trying to do. And so I think that's so cool. So what are, as we close, there's a couple of questions I ask every guest, and we're getting towards the end of our time here, but what are some of the things that you've learned from some failures as you have that churn, that volume of agents leave your business, but then now as your backup, you've rebuilt as the original 50, people are coming and going, and you're back up to that level. What are some of the things you've learned from failure? And I ask that because I think a lot of people, especially people who are just trying to get it figured out, get bent out of shape when they fail or when they make mistakes. And I've often found that some of my greatest successes are standing on a mountain of failure. So for you, Raj, what are some of those lessons that you've learned out of failure, and how have you maybe changed or pivoted or calibrated the way that you do business because of some things that didn't work out the way you intended?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was really stubborn when I started the boutique, really stubborn. There was only one way to do it, and it was like Raj's way, because I've sold X amount of homes, I've sold hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate. It works this way. But you realize in sales and in the people business, the customer service business, Raj's way may not work every single time. Every agent can take everything that I'm able to train them and teach them and make it their own, and then go out and like conquer their own sphere, right? So I think that's one of the things I learned up front is being more flexible to agents who want to do it their way. So we stayed on that. Our brand has been super consistent, and our brand attracts a certain type of agent, right? But the way they're doing it, I've like released the leashes on that, so to speak, right? I'll give you a great example. We have a business card. It's literally won awards through Inman, through real estate sites and circles across. It is gorgeous. I found one vendor on the entire planet who makes this business card. Okay. Nobody knows, not my wife, not my children, not my admins, not the 2 agents who've been with me since day one. Nobody knows where these get printed. They get shipped to the envelope, to the office in an unmarked cardboard box, wrapped in yellow duct tape, with no return address, nothing. I told this vendor, I will order business cards from you for the rest of my life, as long as nobody knows and you don't tell anyone where I'm getting them from. So they're quite expensive though. And that's one of the things our agents pay for, is their own business cards, right? But now I have a second version, which is a very much less expensive, much more affordable version, whatever that agents can order. So I've loosened the reins, so to speak. You don't have to get the fancy card. You can get this card. Although 8 out of 10 of our agents get the fancy one, right? They want it, they love it, they see it. And I've literally got listings from that card alone. So anyway, that's just a little bit of a story of how we've loosened the reins a little bit.
Oh man. Well, I was hoping that you were going to tell everybody on our podcast audience who that vendor was. I'm just kidding. Yeah. So with that design element, and obviously the videos that you were producing way before everybody else was, it's pretty clear that the way that you brand yourself is very high end. And I think that works. I think that works in California. I think it works in some major metropolitan areas. There are some people that are listening in small towns in the Midwest. And I think that there are some lessons that that are portable, that I think that you can share with someone here in just a moment, that will help them understand that it doesn't have to be done that way, that high end, but you can find your spots to really invest and really focus in on that differentiate yourself. That's the whole thing, is it doesn't always have to be expensive, but it has to be uniquely you, and it has to be beautiful, and it's got to be on point. And you shared at one point that beautiful design evokes emotion. Emotion stirs the soul and creates a connection between the client and the agent. And I'm quoting. So can you share a little bit more about the power of storytelling and the power of emotion, and how maybe someone who's not in the OC, who's not in New York City, who's not on an Inman stage, can maybe take that concept and relate it to a rural type of business, or just even if they're just a solo agent and they're not running a big company like you? How do people use design to evoke emotion?
Yeah, I would love to tell you a story and have the absolute perfect story. And so everyone listening, grab a Kleenex box, because this one's like a total tearjerker. So one of the first handful of videos we ever did, I got a referral from my financial advisor. He's like, I have a client, they want to sell. They're in a city called Villa Park. The husband passed away, and it's like a little old lady in a big old house, right? So I go over to the house, and literally like 30-foot crazy wood doors. I enter, I open the door. It's this frail lady answers the door. Hi, Raj. How are you? Gives me a big hug. I said, so nice to meet you. How's it going? And the first thing I notice as I walk into this house is the dining room's right in front of me. But there's not a dining room table. There's a baby grand piano. And I immediately connect because most people in a stay home do dinners and they have dining room tables and they entertain a lot. So I notice right off the bat that there's no dining room table. And I said, oh my gosh, do you play the piano? She's like, no, my husband used to play the piano. I said, just going for it. I'm like, did he have a favorite song that he played for you? She said, yes, The Summer Wind by Frank Sinatra. I was like, oh, and I could hear it in my head. The summer wind was rolling in, like I know that song because I love jazz and I love Sinatra and Michael Bublé and all the classics. So I immediately connected and had a storyboard for a video. Immediately. Toured the rest of the house. I'm not asking about upgrades. I'm not asking about bedroom, bathroom count, granite, crown molding, literally on a half acre with the most beautiful pool and the mature trees and butterflies in the backyard, like not focused on any of that. I have the video. We do a casting call for someone who could play the piano and sing The Summer Wind. We find a gal. We're going to do a surprise birthday party in this home where the husband's out to work, so focused on his phone, comes in, showers, changes. The whole entire music of the video is The Summer Wind and the gal playing The Summer Wind. He comes back downstairs, walks in the backyard, surprise! I showed her this video. She cried, she said, for a month.
Oh
we sold this home as the highest closed sale ever at the time in that city. We sold it in a record amount of time, the highest price per square foot and the highest closed sale ever. She was ecstatic. But not about that. She's kept this video and it's playing. It's the first video we ever shot a drone in. It's the first video we ever had 4 camera people. And most of the actors in there were agents at the brokerage. She literally cried. Cool part of this story. That actress submits that as part of her gag reel because she's an actress, up and coming actress, right? She gets picked up by MasterCard and gets to play the Justin Timberlake MasterCard commercial, which aired at Super Bowl about 9 years ago.
Wow.
So this one video for this little old lady in Villa Park, highest price ever in the city at that time, price per square foot, helps us kind of get on the map with like real estate video, shooting drones. We did a whole behind the scenes thing. Helps this actress get on a MasterCard commercial with Justin Timberlake at the Super Bowl. Holy shit, you can't make this stuff up. You cannot. So that kind of emotion, when you connect with someone, it's not your story, it's their story. You connect with them no matter where you are in this country, on the planet, that kind of immersion, it stirs your soul. It really does. Listen, there was an agent, the top agent in that city living next door. She hates me to this day because of that video, right? Yeah. It killed it. It did so well. So well. But that's the thing, when you remove yourself, you like take the time to listen, right? You listen to the client and then you understand what they want, what they want. You hear them and then you push it out and you do it beautifully. That resonates at any price point, in any city, in any state, anywhere on the planet.
There's a thought leader that I really have gotten to know pretty well over the past 6 or 7 years through reading his books. I've actually met him multiple times. His name's John Acuff, and John has written a bunch of career books. And one of the things that he communicates is that when you're trying to build any type of career of relevance, you need to care about the people that you care about. You need to care about what they care about. And so that's the whole thing, is care about what the people you care about. That's the whole thing. And it's so true. I mean, this isn't about your message. It's not about your story. It's about that lady's story or that person's story. And to have so many beautiful things come out of that, it's just got to be really rewarding. Okay. So last question. It's a question I save for everybody. And you can take it 2 ways. You can take it from your own personal experiences, which we've talked quite a bit about, or you could take it the direction of maybe you're mentoring someone or you've got a child that gets to be this age. This is the question, Dear Younger Me. So it comes from a song, but it's also just this beautiful exercise of you're writing a letter to yourself. Maybe what you wish you knew when you were 22 is the way I've dubbed this question. So you're communicating with someone that's 22 years old. Either yourself, you have this benefit of traveling back in time and talking to yourself, or you have the benefit today of sharing some wisdom with someone that's in their early 20s, that's getting their start. What's the message that you give to someone in their early 20s about the real estate industry, or just being someone like yourself that has aspirations of doing something big and bold and starting something maybe from scratch?
Yeah, so this is kind of what I think I would tell them. Don't listen to what I'm saying. Watch what I'm doing. Okay. Our words they're in and out, but my actions, what I'm doing every day, I'm usually the first one in the office. I'm usually the last one to leave the office. I'm sending emails at midnight. I'm sending emails at 4 a.m. Like, our phone does not stop, 9 to 5. It's on all day long. So just don't listen to what I'm saying, because 2 years from now, everything I'm saying about Instagram is going to be gone. Just watch what I'm doing on Instagram and then mimic it and push forward. Your Instagram post can't be, hello, sunshine, and that's it. That's not a story. Like, tell the story about why you're on the beach, upside down, doing whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, tell the whole story. It can't be just a 2-word caption. Now, listen, my entire brokerage, and I've got someone right behind me, like, listening to me, is all millennials. Like, literally, they're all millennials. I have a handful of people that aren't. But, like, you can't do, like, that typical millennial post caption on Instagram if you're trying to gain business. If you're doing it just for fun, that's a whole nother world. Like, this convo means nothing, but you have to post with, like, intent. There has to be something there. Like, you're doing it for a reason. You're DMing people for a reason. Like, I was just at Gary Vee's conference a couple of weeks ago in Miami, where I got an opportunity to present about video and marketing and the age of technology and blah, blah, blah. But 1 out of 5, Instagram themselves were at the conference. So we had an Instagram school about stories given by Instagram. And the biggest thing that resonated with me is the feed is now the story feed. That's the Instagram feed. And 1 out of 5 stories gets a DM. So think about it. 1 out of 5 stories gets a DM. Now, I come off the stage a week later, someone slides into my DM and says, hey, Raj, saw you present, have a buddy in Orange County, wants to list their home, about $2 million. So that's the thing. That's kind of why we're doing it. I mean, it is fun. It's fun to be connected with people. Stop listening to what I'm doing and stop listening to what I'm saying and watch what I'm doing.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's so true, because it's evergreen. I was talking to my wife about this actually the other day, is either yesterday or this morning. I can't remember. They blend between each other, but I was talking to my wife, Courtney, about this. And I said, the goal, it must've been yesterday, because I'm prepping for this conference that I'm presenting at tomorrow. And I said that, the goal is to share evergreen content. And she's like, evergreen, what's that? And I was like, oh, it's funny. I've heard that so many times that I just figure everybody speaks that way. I was like, well, it's evergreen, like evergreen trees. And she's like, oh, I totally get it as soon as you said it. But the idea is, the platform is going to change, and it has changed, and it's going to continue to change. It's going to be rapid. You might be doing whatever it is. It could be Instagram, it could be Snap, it could be Twitter, it could be Facebook, it could be whatever. Whatever you're doing now is not going to be what you're doing 10 years from now. But the way you do it is probably going to be there. And there's that uniformity that your platforms are going to change, the people you're communicating with, but the way that you communicate and the actions that you take, regardless of the platform, are really going to be there. So I love that advice. I've actually never heard that advice, and I think it's great. I think it's so apropos for where we are in the real estate industry, because there is a lot of this, how do you grab this? How do you grab that? How do you do the next thing to become, the person that everybody's talking about? And I think the way you do it is by bringing your authentic self every day to every medium that you do. And that's what separates you. That's what makes you distinctive. That's what makes the boutique real estate group special, is that you're not just repeating what other people are doing. You're bringing your own authentic self to the marketplace, and you're working your tail off too as you're doing it. So Raj Qsar, this has been a really, really fun opportunity to get to know someone you and I have never met before, although we know so many different people that are connected with us. So I'm sure we will meet at some point. How do people connect with you? How do people connect with the boutique, and where can you be found on social media? What are your handles, and what's your website?
Yeah, so our website's theboutiquere.com. So once you're on our website, you can see our listings. You can connect with all our platforms socially. We're basically The Boutique RE on every platform. If you want to connect with me, it's Raj Qsar, RAJQSAR on everything. And yeah, would love to connect. You could also email me anytime, raj@theboutiquere.com.
Raj, thank you so much. Thank you for taking your time, investing in our podcast audience and sharing. I really do appreciate it. And I know we're going to get to meet at some point in the future. So for my podcast producer, Kayla Davis, who books these and works through a lot of the content, we both say thank you for being a guest on the Calibrate Real Estate podcast. As our avid listeners know, my favorite saying at the end of the show is that we will see you around the neighborhood. Thanks so much for being a guest, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Raj.
Yeah.